Now, you know the old joke, how many insert does it take to screw in a light bulb? Well, I want you to think, like Chris Bowen here, about how many people does it take to represent Australia at an international climate conference that in part is in sort of screwing over the Australian economy. Answer, 75. We sent 75 people, this is not just the minister, by the way, 75 people to the latest of these UN climate conferences. We want to host one of these. In fact, the South Australian Premier is sort of actively bidding for it like it's the Olympics. How much does it cost to send 75 people to the other side of the world to talk about the end of the world, when perhaps a Zoom conference or a giant Microsoft Teams work would do? As you see, $1.5 million. I'm indebted to the reporting of The Australian today because they break it down. How many, from where, how much? From the Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water, close to $1 million, 42 people. The Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, 25 people. You know, the science thing we have, the CSIRO, no, we can only send 2 from there. The Department of Agriculture, 2. Department of Finance, 2. And what about from the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, 22,000 to send one of them, but only 16,000 to send somebody from the Department of Health and Aged Care. Me thinks somebody flew business class while somebody else was up the back. Meantime, 75 people, $1.5 million, average per head, $20,000. Now, again, what sends normal people crazy about this stuff is, firstly, there are how many charities in Australia that have to go begging for public donations when $1.5 million would set them up for a whole year? No questions asked. Oh, no, but it's way more important that we prance about at an international conference that's so important that the Prime Minister chooses not to go. Instead, the bloke who, fingers crossed, will never be Prime Minister was there, along with his Assistant Minister. Now, we all know what 75 people look like when we quickly think about it. But let me illustrate how many people we sent to this conference, okay? Roll the tape, because to get to 75 people, you need the entire New South Wales Blues State of Origin team running onto the field, okay? We're not even halfway. Then, of course, there is the collective of the Brisbane or Collingwood football teams. The West Coast Eagles gets us to, what, 67 there? Reggie the Rabbit, obviously, tennis players, Jamie, Kath and Kim, Gordon Ramsay, Russell Crowe, and a Matilda. That's 75 people for you. That's how many people we sent to an international conference that is all about just paring it back a bit, doing our bit in Western countries like ours to pull it back a bit. Where countries like China, with way more people, way more pollution, they can do whatever they want for the next little while. This is, and I know how this works, right? Which is, this is a let them eat cake moment. Because no one's going to turn down the chance for, what, a taxpayer-funded trip to the other side of the world to talk about climate change? No, of course not. But here's the kicker. It's not just 75 people. Because once you throw in the minister, once you throw in the minister with their staff, once you throw in the deputy minister, here's what happens. On top of all of this, we spent $102,000 sending the minister and his staff, and $20,000 on the assistant minister. The total bill, $1.6 million. It is so easy for them to spend other people's money. And our politics is so broken that there'll be more outrage about me connecting Reggie the Rabbit to this waste of taxpayers' money than the actual waste of taxpayers' money. Fair dinkum.